Thunder strikes again, and Marvel Studios has dropped the official trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder, and it absolutely looks amazing. There are a lot of Easter eggs and clues to break down in this trailer. Now I'll be going over some things in the first trailer to connect to some of the stories it might suggest in the second one. Now the first trailer opened up with 3 versions of our God of Thunder running in the woods, a sort of montage to show different Thors in different ages. We first see a kid version of him who is played by his own son, and then to a teenage Thor wearing his classic costume from the comics. Then finally we get to his current self. These 3 versions of him might be referenced in the comics in which Thor fights Gore in 3 different time periods, and that is a younger version of him from the 1893 AD that first fights him, and then on to the present day Avengers version, and to a far future version of him. If you've seen my plot leak on my channel, I did mention that there was going to be 3 different versions of Thor as they are going to team up and take down Gore, who was the one who even took them from those time periods in the first place. Now it is a plot leak, and as you know, take it with a grain of salt. Now with that in mind, let's check the second trailer. It opens up with Korg telling the story of Thor to the kids on the planet Thor and the Guardians came to help. At the top left, we can see the tree that he was meditating at in the first trailer. This is likely one of the adventures of the Guardians, and at a point they will separate and also continue on their own adventure and also search for Gamora, who we last saw in Avengers Endgame, and that is a story we are going to see in the 3rd Guardians of the Galaxy movie. By this time with the Guardians, he's going to be rocking his Thunder Strike costume, and it looks like the movie is going to spin it a little bit to make it the Ravagers uniform, which he's going to get from the Guardians, and it's probably going to be Peter Quill's own too. We then cut to New Asgard, which looks to be doing pretty good as we see cruise ships, and in the previous trailer a van which suggests that they have turned the place to a tourist site. I mean, who would want to go and meet Thor's people? We also see the ship that Thor and the team will be traveling on, pulled by Thor's goats from the comics, Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder. In the last trailer, we saw that there was a neon sign on the boat labeled Cocktails and Dreams, which references Tom Cruise's Cocktail movie. Hopefully in the near future, he's sipping less cocktail and getting drunk on the Mission Impossible movies and actually make an appearance as Superior Iron Man in the MCU. Come on, Tom, we're all waiting for you. Why did you leave all your friends to die, especially Black Bolt? Now next, we see Thor transform into a new costume similar to what he did in Thor Ragnarok. We also see his goats with him, and they appear to be on Sakaar. I just hope Jeff Goldblum's Grandmaster pops up, as we also saw him in a similar location by the end of Thor Ragnarok. Gore may even consider him as a god, as he's one of the oldest beings in the universe. We then see again Thor's training montage, but this time Korg narrates the story, and we also get an additional scene. He has on his hat which says the strongest Avenger, a title he believes is his.
I'm the strongest Avenger, okay? So this responsibility falls upon me.
The next shot is of Thor on Earth fighting some sort of creatures who may be Gore's black berserkers. As he sees Mjolnir, he attempts to hold it, but it goes back to his new owner, Jane Foster, a mighty Thor, and she's very much going to be a big part of this movie. Thor looks very shocked to see her, especially with his hammer and Asgardian costume and her new power. It will be interesting to see this scene and the conversation at this part too. For those who still don't know how she becomes Mighty Thor, here's a fast recap. Just like in the MCU, in the comics, Thor lost Mjolnir and was deemed unworthy. Unlike in Thor Ragnarok, where it was destroyed by Hela. Jane, who had been diagnosed with cancer, was caught by the hammer, which she later accepted. And by the looks in the MCU, after its destruction, it gets pushed back together, maybe by magic. So Jane gained the power of Thor, but with a drawback, as the more she uses her new power, the more the cancer grew. Because she became stronger, the cancer also started to adapt. She later stopped using it after a persistent advice from a friend. When Asgard was attacked, she picked it back again and defeated the villain, but also died in the end. Who managed to bring her back from Valhalla by calling out her soul. She continued her chemotherapy and eventually beat her cancer. After a while, she became immortal, which may be one likely trajectory the story is going to go, as we saw a certain part in the trailer where she's riding the Pegasus, which may be a hint. For those worried that Thor isn't going to be Thor anymore, come on, just relax. Even if there are two Thors, I don't mind. That's just a power couple right there. We then get a new captivating look at Jane Foster as Mighty Thor, making an epic landing with lightning all around her. Honestly, she looks amazing. I just can't get enough of her look. The place she lands may be the Temple of the Universe or near Olympus. We get a reference to some celestial beings such as the Living Tribunal, who we last saw in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness in a blink or you miss it scene. He was also teased in Loki, and it looks like they are building up to his live-action debut in the MCU. For those who don't know, the Living Tribunal is one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Multiverse, and is the safeguard of the multiverse and also judges each universe, hence the name. We also catch a glimpse of some of the statues of some celestial beings. We see Lady Death, Infinity, and we also see Uatu the Watcher, and finally Aeon. These are really powerful cosmic entities who I know very soon we will all see them in the MCU. Maybe far in the future, but we will definitely see them. The next shot is presumably the next day after Thor and Jane have finished fighting together and defeating the enemy and try to catch up.
What's it been like? 3-4 years?
8 years, 7 months, and 6 days, give or take.
It looks like Thor still hasn't gotten over her. He really kept track of their time apart. It kind of looks like Jane was snapped, considering how to her it's been about 5 years. They may confirm it in the next trailer or when the movie comes out, but Valkyrie notices that Thor is very much still in love with Jane, and she may also feel the same way too, as we see shots of them staring at each other at different points in the trailer. I mean, it's love and thunder written all over that. Next up, we finally get what we've been waiting for a long time. Our first look at Christian Bale's gore. I mean, the leaked toys and cover arts did not do it justice at all. He looks dreadful, and I now understand when reports came that he looked very scary. I'm digging that black and white look to him, and I think he's going to be one of the best villains in the MCU. His backstory or drive in the comics makes us understand where he's coming from and why he does what he does, though he may have gone overboard. Now in the comics, he comes from a harsh desert planet where he's raised by his mother in the belief of gods, who she assured that they will look after them. But he started to have doubts when his mother was killed by beasts and fully renounced the gods completely after his wife and unborn child were also killed. After voicing his anger on the gods and ranting, his tribe decided to cast him out as they didn't want the anger of the gods on them. Soon after that, whilst almost dying, he saw two gods who had been fighting crash in front of him, one of them being Null, whom the All Black, which is a symbiote, left and bonded with Gore, giving him immense power, and also giving him access to the Necro Sword, which we see him picking up in the trailer, a very powerful weapon capable of slaying gods and celestials. He goes on a killing spree, killing gods across the universe, who he viewed as selfish, entitled, and arrogant beings who only care about themselves and not the people who worship them. His sole mission from then on was to kill all the gods, and as such wanted to build a god bomb that will wipe them all out. In the far future, he uses other gods as slaves to build it, and even caught and used the younger Thor in doing that as well. Talk about being so powerful that you use other gods as slaves. He remarried, and his new wife, who saw him as a powerful being, began worshipping him and even called him a god, which didn't go down well with him. I mean, his whole mission was to kill gods, so he couldn't be one of them and didn't want to be categorized in that same group as them. He detested that word, and this angered him to the point where he killed his own wife. And after his son later found that out, he decided to help Thor in revenge for his mother. Now, circling back to the 3 Thors that I talked about in the beginning, they are going to team up and fight Gore, and the Avengers version is going to attach himself to the bomb before it could detonate. And as all the gods in the universe start to die out in their last moments, they offer their prayer to Thor, which powered him enough to absorb the bomb. Gore was later beheaded, Game of Thrones style, and the Avengers version of Thor died, though he came back a few days later. Now, some of the elements of the story is tied to the symbiote, and with Sony owning the rights to Spider-Man property, I don't think it's gonna be the same in this movie. They may take a different route, but may have the same vibe to it. Taika Waititi did say Gore may be one of the best villain or even the best villain in the MCU, and with that, I'm just super excited for what's to come. Now, Gore utters these words to Thor.
You are not like the other gods of kill.
Which is pulled directly from the comics, as Gore was fascinated by Thor and perhaps even admired him as he was different from the other gods he had fought and killed. These black and white scenes look like the final battle in the movie, and it seems to be this same location showed earlier on in the trailer. We see Valkyrie fighting Gore using the lightning bolt of Zeus, which suggests that he's going to be killed and Valkyrie is going to pick up the weapon for the fight. Thor and Jane also look to be holding hands, pinkies, as they walk to face the god Butcher, and this fight is going to be epic, like seriously. Just this unique aesthetics alone, blending black and white and color, is going to make a very wonderful visual experience on top of the action. Now, backing up a bit, we get a shot of Thor and his crew visiting Olympus to perhaps warn them on Gore, who has started his killing mission. We meet Russell Crowe, who is going to be playing Zeus, the king of Olympus, and we see several shots of the entire empire or city, which looks beautiful. This structure looks like the place where Thor goes to learn about the location of the missing gods, and it's where he finds where Faliga the Behemoth is, but sadly didn't get there in time as he's already been killed by Gore. This is plucked straight from the comics, side by side. It just looks amazing. Like, more movies should be doing this from the MCU. Now, from the shot that we already saw of Valkyrie holding Zeus's weapon, we know it's going to be used as a stepping stone for Gore to show how powerful he really is, along with killing Faliga the Behemoth, who used to wrestle black holes for fun. This is just going to show that Gore is just extremely powerful. Now, while on Olympus, we see Jane in action as she uses Mjolnir as projectiles on enemies and recalls it back. Like, it's very neat of them to use the practicality of the hammer being broken and finding a way to make use of it. We then get a shot of Gore in a very brightly lit background with plants and flowers. This looks very much like Olympus from what we've seen, and it shows that this is where he arrives and kills Zeus and the other gods. Now we see Thor chained by the lightning of Zeus, and the reason is that they may have sneaked in there on the account of what Zeus is saying.
Let's see who you are. I take off your disguise.
To uncover his disguise, Zeus flicked too hard, just like Itachi does to Sasuke.
You flipped too hard, damn it!
I love how all the women collapse around Zeus, who must be feeling very insecure right now. And Jane and Valkyrie are just enjoying the show. I mean, Thor is looking jacked and is the biggest he's gotten since playing Thor. And no, I'm not talking about, down there. Come on, focus. We see Thor fighting next with other soldiers. And when you go back and compare the other shot of Jane fighting, you see that Thor is behind there, and they may be trying to go and rescue him after he was chained by Zeus, and Zeus then sends his men after them. I think this is just a misunderstanding at the beginning, and they are going to just resolve it, and that is when Gore also arrives. Now, that was it for the breakdown. I'm beyond excited for this movie, and if you read the comics, you know that there's a lot to anticipate. Christian Bale, I know for sure, is a phenomenal actor and is going to deliver big. I'm excited for our new Thor, as always, to see Mighty Thor, Jane Foster, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Korg, among others, and maybe any other cameos that we will see in the movie. And if you thought that Moon Knight and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness are the top ones contending for the power couples, come on, move way, cause here comes the Thors. Anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think of this trailer. How excited are you for the movie, and what do you think the journey of Thor is going to go next in the MCU? You can leave a like for the video if you enjoyed it. It really helps the channel out, and please subscribe and turn on that post notification bell not to miss any other video. As always, Nerdy Sage here. See you guys in the next video.